You've probably played an Xbox at some point in your life. But what if I told you the person who ran Microsoft didn't even want it to exist? Not only that, the whole thing started as a secret project. 4 engineers, no budget, no approval, working behind their boss's back. And when Bill Gates finally found out, he spent hours trying to kill it. What happened next is one of the most insane stories in gaming history. This is the real story of how the Xbox was born. To understand why Xbox even exists, you have to go back to 1999. Sony was about to release the PlayStation 2, and Bill Gates was worried. Not about losing the gaming market. Microsoft wasn't even in gaming. He was worried about losing something much bigger, the PC market. Sony's vision for the PS2 wasn't just a gaming console. They wanted it to replace your entire home computer. Play DVDs, stream music, browse the internet, all from your living room. If that worked, people would stop buying Windows computers. And for Microsoft, that was a serious problem. Gates actually reached out to Sony directly, asked if Microsoft could build the software for the PS2. Sony said no. He even explored buying Nintendo to get a foothold in gaming. Nintendo also said no. Microsoft was locked out of the living room entirely. And that's when 4 engineers decided to do something about it on their own. Their names were Kevin Backus, Seamus Blackley, Ted Hayes, and Otto Burks. All 4 worked on Microsoft's DirectX team, the team responsible for the graphics technology inside Windows. In 1998, they started meeting in secret. Their very first documented meeting was on March 30th, 1999, in conference room 2095 on Microsoft's campus. No official project, no budget, no approval from leadership. Just 4 guys who believed they had an idea that could change everything. And here's the detail that gets me every time. To build their first prototype, they didn't have fancy equipment. They went out, bought a few Dell laptops, took them apart, and used the components to build what they imagined a gaming console could look like. Their concept was simple. Build a console using standard PC parts that game developers already knew how to work with. Make it powerful, make it easy to develop for, and go directly at Sony. They gave the project a codename, Midway, named after the World War II battle where the United States defeated Japan. The message inside that codename was clear. This was their war against Sony. But there was one massive problem standing between them and making this real. Bill Gates. In early 2000, the 4 engineers finally got in front of Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer to pitch the Xbox, 2 of the most powerful people in the world. And Gates was not impressed. He pushed back hard. He questioned everything. He believed the console would lose at least $1 billion. He had real doubts about whether Microsoft, a software company, could compete in a market dominated by Sony and Nintendo. And honestly, those were fair concerns. Microsoft had never made a gaming console in its entire history. But the engineers weren't just pitching a gaming console. They were pitching a survival strategy. If Microsoft didn't act, Sony would take over the living room. And if Sony owned the living room, Windows was done. That argument got through. Not because Gates was suddenly excited about gaming. Xbox was approved as a cold business decision, a defensive move to protect Microsoft's most valuable asset. And then things got even more tense. The team decided early on that Xbox wouldn't actually run on Windows. It needed something leaner and faster. When they broke that news to Gates, one of the engineers later recalled, and this is a real quote, "I think that was the closest Bill ever got to strangling me." Now they had the green light, but they were entering a market completely dominated by Sony, with almost no time to spare. January 6th, 2001. Bill Gates took the stage at CES in Las Vegas to unveil Xbox to the world. And standing right next to him, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. At the time, The Rock was still primarily known as a WWF wrestler. He had only appeared in one film, and Gates kept accidentally calling him just Rock instead of The Rock throughout the whole presentation. The Rock looked into the camera and said, "The Xbox is everything The Rock is. Cutting edge, powerful, exhilarating. And like The Rock, it will be the most electrifying thing coming out this year." The gaming world had absolutely no idea what to make of any of it. And then there was the controller. The original Xbox controller, known as the Duke, was enormous. One of the biggest controllers ever made for a home console. When Microsoft brought it to Japan for testing, players refused to use it. Microsoft ended up designing a smaller version specifically for the Japanese market. November 15th, 2001. Xbox launched in North America. It sold out on Amazon and at Toys R Us within 30 minutes of going live. By the end of 2001, Microsoft had moved 1.5 million units. And the game that made that happen? A launch title called Halo Combat Evolved. Here's something most people don't know. Halo was never supposed to be an Xbox game. It was originally being developed for Mac and PC by a studio called Bungie. Microsoft bought Bungie in 2000 and made Halo an Xbox exclusive. That one decision changed everything. Halo Combat Evolved sold over 5 million copies. 1 in every 4 people who bought an Xbox also bought Halo on the same day. It won Game of the Year from nearly every major publication. IGN gave it a 9.7 out of 10. Then, in 2002, Microsoft launched Xbox Live, the first real online gaming network for home consoles. For the first time ever, players could go online and compete against each other from anywhere in the world. That was genuinely new. That changed gaming permanently. Here's the full picture. 4 engineers who tore apart Dell laptops in secret. A boss who spent hours trying to kill the project. A console that Microsoft expected to lose over $1 billion on. A launch event with a wrestler who had been in exactly one movie. And a controller so big that Japan wouldn't use it. Microsoft actually lost around $4 billion on the original Xbox. They sold every single console below cost just to get into the market. They knew they were going to lose that money going in. They did it anyway. And it worked. Xbox became a permanent force in gaming. The 360, the One, the Series X. None of that exists without 4 engineers sneaking around a conference room in 1999 with a pile of Dell laptop parts and an idea their boss didn't want. If you want to see what happened next, because the Xbox 360 story is honestly even crazier, subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you learned something today, hit the like button. It actually helps more than you think. This has been The Breakdown. See you in the next one.